Right now, somewhere in your organization, a project team is either building momentum or bleeding it. The difference between those two states isn't luck, it's location on what I call the momentum ladder. And yes, I made that up. The momentum ladder maps, though, where your team sits across three different dimensions: activity, what you're doing; focus, where your attention is going; and momentum, the speed and direction of progress. As much as I hate to go back as far as Jim Collins, he does talk about this perennial idea of the flywheel, which requires consistent and significant effort to get it moving. But once it's moving, it's incredibly difficult to stop. And that's what we're building. At the bottom level, teams are disconnected. Activity is minimal, the focus is on building awareness, and momentum is in a state of stuck. You're not moving. People don't really understand the purpose, roles are unclear, and there's potentially resistance or confusion about why this project even exists. One step up, teams move into a directed state. There's activity, but it's controlled from the top. Focus shifts to establishing basic processes and clarity. Momentum is in a slow start. You're pushing that flywheel, but it's really hard work. Teams here need clear direction because they haven't yet developed autonomy. The middle rung is aligned. This is where I see teams beginning to gel. Activity becomes collaborative. Focus shifts into attuning and refining processes, ironing out friction, and momentum starts to reach a steady-ish kind of state. People understand their roles, trust is starting to form, and the flywheel is moving. Next, if you can sustain that, teams become engaged and activity is now proactive from a grounding in project purpose. The focus turns to accelerating, driving outcomes rather than just completing tasks. Momentum builds to a strong push. The wheel starts to gain some speed. Teams don't wait for instruction, they anticipate needs and solve problems collaboratively. At the top, teams are energized. Activity is characterized by high performance and innovation. Focus is on impact, delivering exceptional results. Momentum is at full throttle. The flywheel is humming. These teams exhibit what researchers often call team flow, where collaboration feels light and effortless. So what are some of the problems beneath the obvious problems? Most leaders see a team stuck at level 1 and think, well, we need better processes. However, the real problem usually isn't the absence of process, it's the absence of alignment to purpose. Research shows that 3 to 5% of people contribute approximately 30% of the momentum in a cross-functional project. These people I call the extra milers. They're people who are deeply aligned with the project's purpose. You don't need to convince everyone in an organisation. Studies show it takes only around 10% of a group with unshakable belief to influence other members, and just 25% of the workforce to commit to a new program to create momentum across an entire business. So the hidden mechanism at level 1 isn't necessarily motivation, it's clarity of purpose. Without it, even talented people feel disconnected. At level 2, the hidden challenge isn't about giving more direction, it's often about managing expectations. Teams underestimate effort all the time. The planning fallacy, which is our built-in human optimism bias, makes us believe we can do things faster than reality allows. A homegrown example for you, historical but true. The Sydney Opera House, estimated at 7 million and 4 years, cost 102 million and took 14 years. At level 3, the hidden dynamic is psychological safety paired with high standards. Teams need to feel safe enough to contribute ideas but also be stretched to develop. Without both, you get either comfortable mediocrity or fearful compliance. Amy Edmondson has pioneered this research, and the increasing focus on psychosocial safety at work is an indication that lawmakers are also taking this seriously. At levels 4 and 5, the hidden risk is actually usually burnout from overdoing the discretionary effort. Engaged teams give more, but if that effort isn't recognised or managed, it often becomes unsustainable. The dark side of high performance is assuming people can maintain peak output indefinitely. Any athlete will tell you that peaking at the right time is very much part of success. So where do you see yourself or your team on the ladder today? Here's the truth that matters most. You don't climb this ladder in a straight line. You don't feel the same way about your position each day. Some days your team feels aligned, you've got the rhythm, communication's flowing, and you're making progress. Then a key person leaves, or a sponsor goes MIA, or scope changes unexpectedly, and suddenly you're back directed, scrambling to stabilize. This isn't failure. It's just a response to changing circumstance. Here are some diagnostic questions you can ask yourself to figure out where you are on the ladder today. Think about the activity. Are people waiting for direction, or are they proactively solving problems? If they're waiting, you're at directed or below. If they're anticipating needs, you're at engaged or higher. What is the focus? What does the team talk about in meetings? If it's who's responsible, you're still building awareness. If it's how do we stabilize this, you're probably at level 2. If it's how do we accelerate, you're probably at level 4. And the momentum check, how does progress actually feel? Stuck, slow, steady, accelerating, full speed, too fast? Think about the energy in the room, and here's the permission you need. And if you need this permission, it's okay to move backwards sometimes. To return to the flywheel analogy, once it's moving, consistent effort is required rather than heroic bursts. This is one of the reasons I often tell my teams that projects are both a marathon and a sprint, or many sprints in some situations. That Japanese concept of Kaizen, which is about continuous incremental improvements, I love this idea and approach because it teaches us that small, consistent changes compound over time, a little bit like compound interest. You might be engaged on Monday and aligned by Wednesday because external forces shifted. That doesn't erase the progress that you've made. It means that you're navigating complexity, which is exactly what project leadership demands. So what do you do with this? First, name where you are today. You can use the momentum ladder in your team meetings if you like. You can say to your team, I think we're at directed right now, working to stabilize roles and process. Do you agree? Shared language creates shared understanding. Secondly, you can identify what needs to happen to move up one level. Not 3, 1. If you're at directed, what would help you become aligned? Maybe it's clarifying the project purpose. Maybe it's building trust through consistent communication. Pick one lever and give it a push consistently. Thirdly, you can monitor for backsliding and try and suspend your own judgment. If you drop from engaged to aligned, ask, what changed? What support do we need? Treat it as information, not defeat. Remember what Amy Edmondson's research tells us. Psychological safety plus high standards creates learning cultures. Use the momentum ladder not as a weapon to shame underperformance, but as a mirror to reflect where you are and as a map to show where you're going. The ladder isn't about perfection, it's about awareness, adjustment, and consistent effort. As has been attributed to Margaret Mead, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. That small group, well, it starts with us, knowing where we are and choosing to push the wheel one more turn.